Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into it.
AKA current-carrying leads, on batteries play a very important role. They provide reliable contact between the leads and the wires going to the battery. Moreover, rather soft metals, such as lead, are used for manufacturing terminals. This is a special design aimed at increasing the degree of protection. When a short circuit occurs, the terminals melt and thus the contact is interrupted. But soft metal has a downside. During operation, the material wears out, loses its initial characteristics, which leads to the need for repair or complete replacement. All sorts of things happen to slip leads. They burn out, oxidize, or simply break. If certain conditions and recommendations are observed, it is quite possible to restore the terminals and make them work again. Therefore, you should learn how to properly restore the terminals on the battery and what is required for this. When repair is necessary. In total, we can distinguish several reasons that entail the restoration of the battery terminals, since they no longer perform their functions at the same level as before. The fact that such malfunctions can be eliminated with your own hands is also pleasant. As for the causes, they are as follows. Poor contact with the wires. Most often found on trucks, since the indicators of flowing currents here are much higher. In areas where there is poor contact, the terminal, being under the influence of a large current, can gradually burn and melt. This leads to the terminal breaking off or melting. Such a problem is often observed on cars where two batteries are connected in parallel, and the current-carrying terminal will be destroyed by the one where the connection is weak. The minus battery is not in contact with the car body. This phenomenon is referred to among motorists as bad mass. If the contact with the mass is weak, then the plus will begin to actively overheat and burn out. This is a direct indication for repair. Mechanical damage. And mechanically, terminals can be damaged and deformed for a variety of reasons. Most often it is the fault of motorists themselves. When installing the battery and connecting the terminals, they need to be tightened. Doubting the strength of the connection, some people start to apply too much force. Because of this, the contact only worsens, as the soft metal current lead is simply destroyed. Alternatively, the battery may not be securely fastened under the hood. The clamping bar may be loose or forgotten about. When hitting a bump, the battery jumps out of its seat, and the terminals simply cannot withstand such a load. There is a breach of integrity with all the ensuing consequences. Short circuit, another probable cause. In this case, the current generated by a short circuit can instantly melt the lead without any problems. Regardless of the cause, if the integrity of the terminals is compromised, they need to be repaired or replaced. Repair methods. Some motorists believe that if the slip pins are deformed, the only option to solve the problem will be replacement. Read also, everything you need to know about transferring a diesel engine to gas, but you should not rush with the replacement. Sometimes the terminals are still quite possible to restore. There are several options. How with your own hands you can restore the terminals on the battery. Melt lead and tin. The metal of the terminals should be melted in a pre-prepared container of metal. A mold made on the basis of a finger battery will do. The terminals and the area around them should be cleaned. Melt the metal and pour it into the mold. Clamping the workpiece and the pliers, the excess is removed. This method is suitable if the entire terminal is burned. If the design fell off the battery, the second method of restoration is suitable. To do this, it is necessary to fuse the terminal with lead using the rod of a salt battery. The case will be used as a mold. A soldering iron will be required. The method will be suitable as an urgent repair. But there are also such situations when recovery is not a question. Here the only way out of the situation will really be exclusively replacement. How to replace the terminals. Replace only after disconnecting the battery from the vehicle. And for this purpose, following the golden rule, first disconnect the minus and then the plus. Before changing the terminals, you need to make sure that everything is fine with the leads on the battery itself, and there are no complaints about the condition of the wires. Options for replacement terminals are more than enough, which greatly simplifies the purchase of parts for repair. When selecting new terminals, attention should be paid to such points. The size should strictly correspond to the electrodes, leads, on the battery. Otherwise, they will not be able to be properly and firmly tightened. The terminals will easily fall out. The slightest vibration will break the contact, which will lead to certain malfunctions. It is also necessary to check that the diameter of the terminal hole matches the diameter of the connection to the high-voltage wires. The fastening must be as tight and strong as possible. The materials used also play an important role. Basically, terminals are made on the basis of lead. It is optimal to select the same terminals as those used earlier. Alternative options are copper and brass, but such current collectors will be more expensive. Sometimes it is optimal to buy a ready-made set, which consists of a pair of terminals and 2 high-voltage wires. But their installation requires more skills and abilities. Here it is better to seek the help of specialized specialists. Preventive measures. It is fair to say that the best protection against the restoration and replacement of battery terminals is their timely prevention. If we talk about serviceable power supplies, they more often than others provoke electrolyte discharge through microholes in the case and in the places where the leads, electrodes, come out of the battery case. Getting on the terminals and wires, water and sulfuric acid contained in the electrolyte gradually destroy them, breaking the contact, causing short circuits and other problems. Violation of contact is largely due to the formation of oxides. Read also, connecting and configuring the onboard computer in the car to avoid complicated repairs and no less complicated restoration of battery terminals. You should get rid of oxidation in time and use protective lubricants in order to prevent oxidation processes. Motorists who adhere to the principles of car care of Soviet-era cars usually use lithyl, solidal, and technical petroleum jelly as lubricants. But in reality, modern battery lubricants are much more efficient, easy to use, durable, and reliable. That's why it's worth giving preference to topical lubricants. Most of them have a convenient form of release, which greatly simplifies the application without the need to get your hands dirty, and emit unpleasant odors after the prevention of the battery. However, the most important preventive measure is the removal of oxides from the electrode surfaces and the terminals themselves. Several methods can be used here. Sandpaper. In fact, it should be used in extreme cases, when oxides are really very persistent and more gentle methods do not help. Only fine-grained sandpaper is used. Wet rags. In terms of efficiency, this is the weakest option, but at the same time the safest. The motorist is simply required to wet a clean rag, wring it out well, and, applying a certain amount of force, wipe the problem areas. Special auto chemicals. In auto stores you can find products whose task is to clean contacts and terminals. Most often these are aerosol cans. The price is quite diverse. And here on the effectiveness of auto chemistry is not particularly superior to the solution, which can be easily prepared at home, practically free of charge. Soda solution. Oxides appear as a result of the electrolyte coming to the surface. Electrolyte, as you know, is a mixture of distilled water and acid. It is not difficult to wash off the water, but the acid needs to be neutralized. Everyone remembers from the school chemistry course that acid is neutralized by alkali. Soda is an excellent example of an alkali, which is easy to find at home or buy in the nearest store. To prepare the solution, you need to mix warm water with baking soda in a ratio of 10:1. What categorically should not be used is metal brushes, sharp knives, and other similar objects. Such an abrasive removes the metal layer, provokes the formation of cracks, and violates the quality of contact. And you may not even notice it visually. Therefore, it is best to make a solution of baking soda, treat the terminals with it using a clean rag, and then wipe everything dry. There is nothing complicated about preventive maintenance of battery terminals. However, such procedures should be carried out regularly to keep the battery in optimum condition. Even elementary cleaning of the case from dirt is of great benefit, reducing the self-discharge current. In conclusion, restoring your battery terminal is a straightforward process that can save you time and money. By following the steps we've outlined, you can ensure a reliable connection and extend the life of your battery. Remember to always prioritize safety and take your time to do the job right. With a little effort, you can keep your vehicle running smoothly and avoid unnecessary breakdowns. Thank you for watching, and we hope you found this guide helpful.